I took care of my entitled sister's 3 kids after she left them. Now, they're giving me money to show appreciation, but she's livid and demanding it back. I'm 48 and my younger sister, Claire, is 46. Growing up, we never really got along. She was always kind of stuck up and honestly mean to me, which made things even worse when we got to high school. I went one way and she went another. She decided to move in with her boyfriend at the time. Luckily, her boyfriend came from a wealthy family, because there's no way our parents could have afforded to let her live on her own. Claire made it clear to them that she wasn't interested in their opinions. She was going to live her life however she wanted, and they didn't push back, they just let her do her thing. She had twin girls when she was 20, followed by a son the next year, all while still living with her boyfriend. Our parents were happy for her, but honestly, they were also a bit worried. She was taking on a lot of responsibility and had no job. Her whole lifestyle depended on him. She never married him, and looking back, I think that was a mistake. If they had gotten married, at least she would have been entitled to alimony after their breakup. Unfortunately, Claire found out he had been cheating on her, and they went their separate ways. Thankfully, he still provided child support, but he signed away his parental rights. The girls were only 3 years old, and my nephew was just 2 when all this happened. After that, my sister was completely on her own, and she needed a lot of help to keep things together. Though we didn't have the best relationship, I helped her out. Because, well, our parents asked me to. I was making decent money at the time. Not enough to fully support all 4 of them, but enough to contribute a little each month. With our parents also helping out, we made it work for the first few months. But things were tough for Claire. She didn't have a degree and her work experience was limited, so she had to start from the bottom. Climbing the ladder would require a lot of time. But the challenge was finding the time to work and also take care of her kids. She couldn't just leave them alone all day, and a babysitter was too expensive, so she had to rely on me or her friends. Our parents were working too, so they couldn't be there much, and none of Claire's friends were willing to help. They had their own lives, and none of them wanted to take on that responsibility. As a result, Claire ended up working low-paying jobs with flexible hours just so she could be home quickly and avoid paying a sitter for too long, because the cost would have been astronomical and she simply couldn't afford it. This routine went on for a couple of years, and I think at some point, Claire started resenting her kids. She started blaming them for holding her back, saying they were the reason she couldn't get ahead. I would visit her from time to time, but not for her, really. It was more for the kids. I wanted to make sure they were okay. I didn't get along with Claire, but I wasn't heartless. I couldn't let those kids suffer because of her poor choices, so my parents and I checked in on them regularly, and every time, they'd tell us how badly Claire treated them. She'd yell at them for little things and lash out when they were just being kids. It was a miserable existence for them all. I wanted so badly to rescue them, to take them away from that situation, but I couldn't. She was their mother, and as much as I wanted to help, I didn't have the legal right to do anything. She was getting child support from her ex, and although things weren't perfect, she was doing her best to make ends meet. But the kids started to bear the brunt of her unhappiness, and it was heart-wrenching to witness. The years dragged on like this, with her continuing to seek relationships with other men. But when those relationships fell apart, she'd blame her kids for it, convinced that the men were leaving her because she had children. I think she kept the fact that she was a mother a secret for too long, not revealing it to men until after they had been dating for a month or so. I told her time and again that she should be upfront about it from the start, but she didn't listen. In her mind, it was always about her kids driving men away, not her own lack of honesty. She would often remind the kids how their father had abandoned her, threatening to do the same if they didn't behave. The fear and confusion in their eyes were hard to watch. It wasn't just about them misbehaving. It was about her using them as a scapegoat for her own misery. This went on for years, and there were plenty of moments when I thought about just taking them away from her. But the reality was, I couldn't do that. Reporting her seemed impossible because although what she was doing was wrong, it didn't quite meet the legal threshold for losing custody. The fact that her kids hadn't tried to side with her when they chose to move in with me must have really hurt Claire. She was furious about it, and eventually she cut off all ties with them, too. That was 7 years ago, and honestly, I don't know much about what Claire has been up to since then. What I do know, though, is that her kids have turned out great. My nephew is now a pediatrician after going to medical school. One of my nieces earned a degree in literature and is teaching, while her twin sister runs her own hair salon. I helped them with loans to get their businesses started, and did my best to support them financially. Honestly, I'm so proud of how far they've come. They're living independently now, all doing well, and they've created successful, fulfilling lives for themselves. They only lived with me for 4 years, and even then, it wasn't like they were home all the time. They were usually in college, coming back now and then. I guess they just didn't want to come back to a house where they didn't feel wanted. That was Claire's house. After all, it's been 2 years since they all moved out, and I'm genuinely happy for each of them. I never expected anything in return for helping them. If I'm being honest, I did it because it was the right thing to do. They were just kids, and despite my strained relationship with Claire, I couldn't just stand by and let them suffer. I've always had a soft spot for them, especially since I never had children of my own. I wasn't married either. It just wasn't something that appealed to me, but for them, I wanted to be there as a kind of parental figure. They needed someone, and our parents were too old to step in, so I did. I never expected anything in return, but when they all became financially stable, they wanted to show me their gratitude. A week ago, I celebrated my 48th birthday, and my nephew, who organized the whole thing, insisted on covering all the expenses. He told me he wanted to do something special for me, a way to express his thanks. After the party, all 3 of them sat me down. They had talked it over, and now that they were financially secure, they wanted to give me a check as a gesture of appreciation. I tried to tell them it wasn't necessary. I was still working and could support myself, but they insisted. They said they could never repay me for everything I had done. But this was their way of showing how grateful they were for my unwavering support and belief in them. I was so touched by this, and I posted about it on social media. I just wanted to share how proud I was of them. Claire and I hadn't been in touch for years, so I didn't think she would even see the post. Plus, she had blocked me on every platform, so I figured it was safe to share my happiness with others. To be honest, I didn't think Claire would care about what I was doing with her kids. She had stopped trying to reconnect with them long ago. They were the ones who had cut ties with her and moved in with me, and that was entirely her own doing. If she cared at all, she would have reached out at some point, but she didn't. So, imagine my surprise when I received a message from her a few days after posting. She said she had seen my post and wanted to talk about her kids. Apparently, she now regretted how things had turned out. She admitted she hadn't been the best mother and said she wanted another chance to rebuild her relationship with them. She claimed she missed them, and now that they were financially stable, she thought they might be open to reconnecting with her. I wasn't sure how genuine her words were. If she truly missed them, why hadn't she reached out sooner? But I didn't respond right away. I was just too angry to even entertain her message. That evening, she called me. She pushed me again to talk to her kids, to help bridge the gap between them. I finally snapped. I told her there was no way I would help her, because I knew exactly what she was after. It wasn't about reconnecting with her kids. It was about getting access to their money. She didn't care about their well-being. If she truly regretted her actions, she would have gone straight to them. But she didn't. Instead, she was trying to manipulate me into doing her bidding. She argued that I was wrong to accuse her of only wanting money, but I didn't back down. It was obvious to me what she was trying to do. I was disgusted by how entitled she was, how she still couldn't own up to her mistakes. She tried to flip the situation and accuse me of taking everything from her. She said I had stolen her kids and now I was trying to steal their money. That was when I decided I wasn't going to accept the check anymore. It wasn't about the money. I didn't need it, but it was a matter of principle. She didn't deserve it. I didn't care about her tears or the drama she was trying to stir up. Now she's crying about it on social media, telling everyone how I treated her, trying to make me look like the bad guy. Some of our relatives are actually siding with her, saying that I went too far and that I owe her an apology. It's unbelievable. I just don't know if I did the right thing. But after everything she put her kids through, I don't think she deserves anything from them. It was truly astonishing how entitled Claire was. She tried to argue with me, claiming she wasn't after the money and that it was insulting for me to even imply such a thing. I told her that I wasn't implying it. I was certain of it because her intentions were transparent. It disgusted me how obvious her manipulations were. She then went as far as accusing me of stealing everything from her. First, her children, and now, she said, I was taking her fortune as well. I told her I didn't need the money. Initially, I had been skeptical about accepting the check from her kids, but now I knew I had to take it away from her because she simply didn't deserve it. Now, she's crying about it on social media, spreading lies and trying to make me look like the villain. Some of my relatives actually think that I went too far with what I said, claiming I was being greedy and that I owe her an apology. It's unbelievable, and that's why I'm here to ask. Did I go too far? Did I really deserve to be accused of taking everything from her? Update 1. So, I talked to my nephew and nieces about this incident. As many of you suggested, they had already heard from some relatives about what Claire was saying, and they'd been planning to speak to me about it, but hadn't found the time. Now that I had brought it up, they told me they thought I did the right thing. My nephew, especially, was very clear about how he felt. He said he never saw his mother as a maternal figure. He always saw me as the one who was there for him because she had never been present in his life. My nieces agreed with him, though they were too emotional to speak much. It was no surprise that my nephew was the most outspoken. He was angry and upset, and he told me in no uncertain terms that Claire should be the one talking to me. Not the other way around. He explained how Claire had never even done the bare minimum as a mother. Despite receiving child support, she would taunt them and make them feel guilty for simply existing. It wasn't their fault. But that's how she treated them. So, they agreed that I did the right thing, and they confirmed that they weren't going to reach out to their mother, no matter what. They also encouraged me to stand up for myself publicly and tell my side of the story, especially since Claire had been bad-mouthing me online. They said social media was the best way to get my message across. I'm grateful that my nieces and nephew are on my side, especially since my parents are staying out of it entirely. They've told me they don't want to get involved, which I find a little odd. Claire never contacted them either. After she cut ties with her kids, I'm disappointed by their diplomatic approach to the situation, but at least my nieces and nephew are supporting me. Now, a question a lot of people have asked. Why didn't I file for custody of the kids if I knew Claire wasn't a good mother and wasn't treating them well? Well, as I mentioned in my post, what Claire was doing wasn't right, but it didn't rise to the level of abuse or neglect that would qualify for taking the kids away. She was just emotionally unavailable and mean to them all the time. I could have filed for custody, but I knew that if I did, the court would likely want the kids to stay with their biological mother, since she was the only parent they had left. Besides, I was sure that if I tried to take legal action, Claire would make sure I never saw them again. She would take the kids far away, and even though the court might not have granted me custody, it could have made things more complicated and risky for them, so I chose to play it safe. I stayed in touch, made sure I was there for them, and supported them as much as I could. In hindsight, maybe there could have been better ways to handle it, but at the time it seemed like the best option. The last thing I wanted was to put them in a worse situation, so I decided it was better for them to stay with her but have contact with me and my parents. I don't know if it was the right choice in the long run, but I can't regret it. I did what I thought was best, and I've always been there for them. They're all doing well now, and I have no reason to feel guilty about any of it. Update 2. It's been a week since that message from Claire, and today, I've been getting a lot of phone calls from relatives who've been talking to her. They've all been telling me how wrong I am, and how I should apologize. It's been getting really tiring, especially since I've been busy with work and haven't had the time to respond. But today, after another brief discussion with my nieces and nephew, I decided I had had enough. I'm finally putting up a post to share my side of the story. It felt like it was important not just to share my side of the story, but also to let the world hear from the kids. Nobody in the family truly understood how much they had been through in their childhood. They had to endure daily taunts, all because Claire had decided to have children young and then abandoned them for her boyfriend at the time. Even after that, she continued to blame everyone but herself for her poor choices, trying to make it seem like she was doing everything in her power to raise them well. The reality was, she was never there for them. She had been telling everyone that I had stolen her children, and now I was stealing a fortune from her because her kids were finally doing well financially. People deserved to know the truth, the reality of the situation, not her twisted version where she somehow played the victim. I knew many people were already judging me based on her narrative, sympathizing with her without knowing how she had tormented her own children. They didn't know the full story, and I thought it was time for them to hear it. That's why I shared the truth, not only for myself but also for her kids. A few hours ago, I typed everything out and made the post. So far, she hasn't said anything to me directly. The only messages I've received are from relatives who had judged me harshly before. But now they're suddenly flipping sides, apologizing for their hasty judgments. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care about their opinions anymore. I just wanted them to know the truth. I needed to speak my truth, to share how Claire treated her kids, and why they no longer wanted to have anything to do with her. Now that it's done, I'm ready to move on. I've been perfectly happy for the past 6 years without Claire in my life, and I think her kids feel the same way. I don't understand why she felt the need to stir up so much drama. If she really wanted money, she could have just asked for it instead of pretending she wanted another chance at motherhood. Update 3. It's officially been a day since I made that post, and today I guess Claire finally decided to react. Rather than reaching out to me directly, she went back to being dramatic and started commenting on the post, trying to paint me as a liar. That was not going to work, of course. As soon as she began commenting, her kids jumped in, replying with specific incidents from their childhood where she had been downright horrible to them. The whole thing went on for about an hour, and honestly, none of us felt bad about it. We were all thoroughly enjoying watching her get humiliated. Every lie she tried to spin to make me look like the villain was immediately shot down by her own kids. I'm glad I decided to do this over the weekend because it allowed us to respond quickly and back up our side of the story. Claire didn't have time to spin her version without being caught. After about an hour of this back and forth, she began deleting her comments, trying to hide the evidence. It was too late, though. A lot of people had already seen the truth in the comments, and Claire started getting called out by others too. Eventually, she deleted her comments entirely and backtracked everything she'd said. She finally blocked me, and even blocked her own children too. I guess that was her way of surrendering. I'm glad she chose to do that because in a fight with us, she definitely wouldn't have come out on top. We had the moral high ground, and she couldn't escape the truth. I honestly thought that deleting the comments would be the end of it, but then she sent me a personal message. She said she hoped I'd be happy now that I had painted her as the villain and made everyone hate her. The irony was not lost on me. She had started all of this, but now she couldn't handle the consequences when I finally stood up for myself. It's baffling to me that some people start drama only to back out when it comes back at them. I didn't even respond to her message. I've made my peace with everything, and now we're all just going to continue ignoring her for the rest of our lives because she doesn't deserve our attention anymore. She's proven that.